Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on whether you're watching us live or you're watching a recording, and also depending on the time zone you're watching this session. This is already the 17th session of the second Global Stop Cyberbullying Telesummit. And we are halfway there, since we'll be holding additional 18 sessions until October 31st, which is the last day in which we'll have a session. As usual, this event is sponsored by Google. Is our gold sponsor. You know Google because you probably use it for searching, you probably use it for email and for storing your files and many other applications. Our bronze sponsor is .pt, which is an association that manage the Portuguese domain name system. So everyone that needs to register a domain name goes through them. So this summit is run by me and two additional colleagues. Their names are, my name is Tito de Morais. Their names are Luís Fernandes and Sonia Seixas. Together we are the authors of a book called Cyberbullying, a Guide for Parents and Educators. It's only available in Portuguese. It was published in Portugal in 2016. But after that, we also participated in a book called Bullying Perspectives, Practice and Insight, a book that was published by the Council of Europe and authored by Janice Richardson, who will be a guest next week, and Elizabeth Milovidovic was a guest on the first edition. And besides these books that we have written a chapter for this book, we also have Sonia and Luís have written these two other books, Planned Bullying, How to Erase Bullying from School, also only in Portuguese, and this one targeting children and youth, Say No to Bullying, Don't Let Them Hurt You. Today, so besides these books, we have organized this telesummit, and the topic is cyberbullying and topics related to cyberbullying. I have with me my co-host, who is Sonia Seixas. She's joining us also. Hello, Sonia. How are you?
Let me put the sound. Hello, Tito. Hello, everyone. I'm fine. I'm in the middle of Portugal, Santarém, and I'm glad to be here today to hear news from Zimbabwe.
Exactly. So Sonia is in Santarém, which is in the middle of Portugal, 80 kilometers from Lisbon. I'm up north in Porto, which is some 300 kilometers from Lisbon, and our guest is in Zimbabwe on a different time zone, and I'll be introducing her in a minute. She has in which we'll talk about the African experience as far as cyberbullying is concerned. A summary for the session is there have been a lot of positive strides on the African continent regarding access to digital devices and digital media. However, these developments have also presented a number of challenges, one of which is cyberbullying on various platforms. This session will explore some of the elements of the African context. As usual, also, we invite your comments. We're broadcasting to Facebook, YouTube, and also to Periscope, which is basically Twitter's live broadcasting system. So feel free to let us know where you are following us from. And let me welcome Edith Utete from Zimbabwe. Thank you, Edith, for having accepted our invitation to join us at this summit.
Thank you, Tito. Thank you, Sonia. It's good to be here.
Great. As I was saying, let's start by asking you, instead of reading your biographic summary, let me ask you so that our viewers know more about you. Who is Edith Utete? I believe you have prepared.
Okay, I'm a mother. Oh, yes.
You have prepared a presentation that has a slide that says exactly that. But if you want, you can start by giving a summary of the session.
Okay, thank you, Tito. So for today's session, I will be just giving a snippet about the African experience, giving you a little bit of the background, the overview, and some examples of the cyberbullying that we've experienced on our beautiful continent, and what effect some of these things have had on the African child, with a few case studies that I've picked from 3 countries. And to conclude, I will just give also an overview. You can go to the next slide.
Okay. Before going to the next slide, let me remind our viewers that they are free to comment and leave questions for you, and we'll gladly put them on screen so that you can answer. So, answering who you are.
So there I am. I am a wife of 1 man and a mother of 4, and I am an aunt to many, many children. I am a child protection advocate and also a common sense educator, speaker, author, trainer, and mentor. I am an attorney and I have a background in broadcasting, cyber, and intellectual property laws. And I've practiced in Zimbabwe for almost 20 years now. I am also the founder of DigitalAgeConversations and the Violet Room platforms, where I teach children, parents, educators, and businesses how to navigate cyberspace safely and securely. I am also a co-founder of a recently launched Digital Age Africa, which was launched on the 10th of October this year. And we are also reaching out to the African continent with my co-founder, who is based in Angola. We are also going to be rolling out some sessions which are linked to cyberbullying and internet safety as early as December. I am also the chapter lead for Women in Tech Africa in Zimbabwe. And I am just an eternal student. I love to learn and to make an impact on people's lives. So in a nutshell, this is who I am.
Great. And let us know what you've been doing work-wise in this arena.
Okay, thank you, Tito. As far as work is concerned, I have been, like I said, I have the Digital Age Conversations platform and the Violet Room platform, where I mainly cater for mothers, because mothers have their special needs, ranging from how to use technology, how to raise cyber citizens, and how to also use technology for their own good as mothers. I am also a publisher of a book called A Guide to Parenting in a Connected World, which is accessible for the participants on the link that I have provided. And I'm currently working on 4 other projects: the Digital Adventures of Maita, which is a book that was, it was inspired by my children, my girls, when I watch them. One is 22 and the other one is 15, and the youngest is turning 3. So they all use the internet in different ways. And because of that, I decided to, document their experiences. And Maita is actually my youngest daughter. So that is where that inspiration came from. And the other 3 books that you see, they are yet to be published, but these are also books that have been influenced by my parenting and my professional journey.
I can't avoid noticing that one of them is a busy mom's guide to cyberbullying.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about the contents of this ebook?
This one it's more for the mothers who are working or who have businesses, who are running their businesses and they are in full-time employment. What I have put in there are some tips on how they can deal with 2 aspects: the child who is being cyberbullied and the one who is the cyberbully. So I give a few tips in that book to help them guide their children in both instances.
Okay. And are they all available in the Violet Room?
Yes, they're all available in the Violet Room at the link that I've provided.
Okay, so people can just follow the link that we're showing in the bottom of the screen. Okay. Feel free to continue.
Thank you, Tito. So here I'll just give a background of the African situation. Like you said in the introduction, we have had so many positives as far as internet access and bridging the digital divide is concerned. And I won't dwell into that because I know we could take the whole afternoon just discussing those. But there are so many emerging threats that have come to our digital rights. And there's some instances that are cited there, which I got from an organization called accessnow.org. And we have things like from Kenya, there's a lot of cybercrime and cyberbullying. But then they've enacted their laws. There's a lot of hate speech online. There's a lot of defamation and censorship as well. That comes sometimes from the reactive practices of governments to these threats to other people's digital rights. So you'll find that we are caught at a crossroads where we're trying to promote certain rights, but at the same time, we have the risk of infringing on other rights. Like when you look at the freedom of expression and how that has led to people expressing themselves in ways that are potentially dehumanizing to others. So that's the current background there. You can move to the next slide, Tito.
Yes.
So, like I was saying, with internet penetration in Africa, it has increased significantly due to the affordability of mobile devices, to the point where my grandmother, who is based in the rural areas, now has a smartphone, and she is able to access the internet when she has the opportunity to get connectivity.
Yeah, may I ask how old is your grandmother? We usually are not supposed to ask that type of questions.
Then you'll be able to sort of guess how old I am, won't you, Tito? She's in her 80s, late 80s.
Wow. That's just absolutely amazing.
Amazing.
One thing that I've noticed, that I've noticed. I had in Africa, and installing cell phone networks and stuff like that. And he told me that Africa is an amazing country, continent, besides the landscape. As far as technology is concerned, he was telling me that access-wise, you went from dial-up directly to broadband through mobile devices. While in Portugal, for instance, we went from dial-up, then to ADSL broadband connections, and then nowadays we are moving into fiber connections, and the 3G and 4G connection is like a second layer. You don't have fiber or ADSL in Africa, is that right? Or it doesn't
No,
have a big implication?
no, in some countries, in some parts of the country, we do have it. It's not uniform.
Okay.
So
So
yes,
mostly in urban areas, I would say.
yes, urban areas have moved on to broadband and
Okay.
4G. So
Okay.
we have
Feel free to
when you
continue.
when we speak about the African situation, and as far as internet is concerned, when we started, we had people believing that being online means being on Facebook or WhatsApp, but we've found that there's an increasing appreciation of what the digital world has to offer. We've got more people on Twitter, our young ones are on TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and everything under the sun. So the African situation has shown that as far as cyberbullying is concerned, it does not discriminate and it does not respect social, political, religious, economic, or any other standing. You find that children are victims, their parents are victims, celebrities, government officials, lawyers, teachers, everybody, really. There's so many examples that we couldn't possibly cover everyone in this one session. So this, which is why I had to just pick a few tips. You can move to the next slide. And while everybody is susceptible to cyberbullying, it has been found that women and children have been the greatest victims, where they mainly experience revenge pornography, body shaming, and spreading of falsehoods, among other things. And the difference with men and women is that, to the larger extent, men are attacked for their opinions, what they say online. But with women, they receive comments related to their gender or to their appearance, and as well as to their opinions. So, so you can move to the next slide. And it has been found by the African Development Bank that 70% of women have endured some form of cyber attack or violation, and as many as 27 more times more likely than men to face online harassment. This is the current situation as reported by the African Development Bank Commission. And then when you look at the cyberbullying legislation, we have Tanzania and Nigeria that started the race in 2015. Then Botswana and Uganda joined in 2017. Kenya in 2018. South Africa had started before, but in 2019, they updated their cyber laws to criminalize revenge porn, which apparently is quite rampant in South Africa. And in 2019 as well, in October, almost exactly a year ago, Zimbabwe and Ghana also passed their cyber bills, which criminalize cyberbullying. And then now I'll just give you the examples of some of the cases. In April 2020, the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime ranked Kenyans as the worst bullies on Twitter. And it was found that most of the comments that Kenyans on Twitter would post did not take into account whether there was any truth or there was any fact to the statements that were being made, which is what I referred to earlier about, those freedoms of expression which have a potential to infringe on other rights. And then if you look at that survey, it also observed that various brands like the CNN and New York Times now had to think twice before they tweeted about Kenya. And today, no country dares start an online fight with Kenya unless you have a well-functioning mental health care system. This is the one we have. So you can move to the next slide, Tito. That's the one I was referring to, the quote from the United Nations. And this, for more, our viewers can refer to the link that I provided there on the digital pandemic. So this article was basically showing how, while we are talking about the global pandemic as far as COVID-19 is concerned, we have another digital pandemic called cyberbullying, which has been going on for quite a while, which also needs attention. And if you move to the next slide, you find that while I said women are the worst hit, but men also suffer from this, including the president of Kenya himself, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has experienced so much harassment and bullying online that he was forced to close his Twitter and his Facebook accounts. In Kenya as well, you find that the Chief Justice, David Maraga, was also subjected to excessive trolling and bullying, which he felt was negatively impacting his career and his reputation. So it's gender, it's positions that are being affected by this digital pandemic that we referred to. We can go to the next slide. And then another example that I have for you is Egypt. Apparently in Egypt, according to Egyptian statistics for 2017, 14% of children in rural areas and 34% in urban areas use the internet regularly. And most of them are on social media, which thereby increases the risk of cyberbullying. And one example, if you go to the next slide, is of a teenager called Gadia Ahmed, who, as a teenager, sent a video to her boyfriend. And when they broke up, he threatened to post it online. Now, in this case, Gadia only found out years later that the video that she had sent to her boyfriend, or her ex-boyfriend now, was now circulating online. And it was because she was getting bullied by other men because of that video. So what she did was she then posted the same video on Facebook and put a statement to say, "My body is not a source of shame and I have nothing to regret about this video." It did not stop the bullying though. She then also showed that honor is still judged as something that is equivalent to a woman's conduct and sexual activity. So you'll find that as women, we are publicly, when you publicly express your sexuality, you're not free to do that, especially in the digital world. Because this means that it can be used against you. And with the kind of threats that were shown in the case of Ms. Ahmed. We have one of the African women who is an African media, internet and communications expert who says, it is of necessity become imperative that women get to the fore of the cybersecurity debate instead of waiting for the governments and other bodies to, be bringing these issues to the forefront. This was raised by Koliwe Majama, who is a notable African media and internet communications expert. And this was coming out of the fact that the sharp rise in technology-related violence, which is being perpetrated against women, and the way it is being treated as something normal, has made the use of that internet a gender issue. And now I would like to move on to the African child. The situation for the African child is something that actually breaks my heart as a mother, because I know the beauty of technology and how our children have so much to benefit from being online. But you find that technology has been a double-edged sword for the African child, because while it is bridging that digital divide and expanding the access to information and services, it is also increasing the risk for cyberbullying and associated harm. A lot of the cases that I've come across, even in my interventions where I speak to children, have had to do with cyberbullying online. One example that I'll give is South Africa. And I gave a proverb there that says, a river is filled by tributaries. It's a South African proverb. And the proverb comes out of the context that big things come out of small things. And this is what we're seeing here, where one little thing has led to bigger and bigger things. And if you look at the statistics, South Africa is ranked highest out of 28 countries in a survey which was conducted by Ipsos Global. And teen cyberbullying is very, very high, especially when it comes to cases of sextortion and revenge porn. And the sad thing is the anti-bullying measures that have been put in place have been found to be insufficient. They're not solving the problems that we are seeing in the South African context. And cyberbullying has been seen to be the #1 problem that teenagers face online, followed by mental health and self-esteem, then privacy and security when they're online. So just for some statistics on the South African situation, it has been found that 24% of South African teens have reported that they've been cyberbullied. But I would like to also state that a lot of these statistics that we find are not even the right statistics, because some of the cases are not reported. Some of them go unreported. Some of them we never know, because unlike bullying that happens physically, with cyberbullying, sometimes there are no witnesses. So some of these cases actually go unnoticed. And South Africa has been found to be the 4th highest in the world in terms of cyberbullying after New Zealand, the United States, and Ireland, which is, and it's been found that the cases of cyberbullying are 43% worse than drug abuse. It also shows that 41% of the children have experienced depression and helplessness due to the cyberbullying. 18% have felt suicidal, and 84% have shown that they know someone who has been cyberbullied. 40% have shown that they have not told anyone in terms of telling adults or guardians. And 32% felt ashamed because of the things that are said about them by the cyberbullies. 43% have been afraid of parent involvement. And 36% felt that parents could not do anything for them. You also find that 60% of the children are bullied more than the ones are bullied online more than face to face. And most of the bullying is in the form of emojis and words. So for more on these statistics, I've also put a reference there for you, which is teacher.co.za. Okay, then as far as Ghana is concerned, the quote that I have put there is, even though the sound of the horn is not pleasant, it is still blown by a man's mouth. And why I chose that particular proverb is because we might not like what we are seeing in terms of these, for example, the statistics that I've given and the examples that I've given, but this is all emanating from human behavior. And it is something that we have control over. So as far as Ghana is concerned, there are many active players in the cybersecurity and cyberbullying arena at a local and international level. And some of the examples I've given there are Child Online Africa, Women in Tech Africa, and the National Cybersecurity Center. But still, with those kind of mechanisms in place, you find that cyberbullying is quite prevalent. I've given an example of Wendy Shea. If you could go to the next slide, please, Tito. Wendy is a music personality based in Ghana, and she has experienced, she's one of the most cyberbullied personalities. Despite her accolades as 2018 Artist of the Year, she has experienced a lot of body shaming. She has been attacked about the way she dresses. She has been accused of wanting to imitate another artist who unfortunately passed away. And there's been so much abuse to the point where she has received life-threatening messages with people telling her to quit music if she values her life. She has also been subjected to hostility from the media. During one interview, she was asked about an alleged relationship with her manager, and she has tried to divert that negativity by posting. There's a tweet that I shared there where she's calling on Ghanaians to rally together and to also acknowledge that celebrities are people who have feelings. But if you follow that tweet, you'll find it's still followed by a lot of negative and demeaning comments as well. Then we have the final case study is for my birth country, which is Zimbabwe. And the proverb that I shared there is, a winning baby does not cry out loud. Who does not cry out loud will die on his mother's back. What that basically means is, if you do not speak up, no one can hear you, no one will know what you're going through, and no one can help you with your troubles. And as far as Zimbabwe is concerned, we have found that the Ministry of Information Communication Technologies, Postal and Courier Services has established a task force which deals with cybercrimes and cyberbullying. We also have our cybercrimes bill, which is currently being looked into, but we do not have specific laws that protect victims of cyberbullying. We, however, have, in the cases where cyberbullying has been reported, defamation is the most effective recourse. And one limiting factor is that the statistics are limited and hugely inaccurate, because also the reporting and support structures are not sufficient. We have organizations like Childline and the Zimbabwe Cyberbullying Trust and the Ministry of Information, as I've said. But people haven't accepted that those platforms are available for them, because maybe for some they have not seen the support, and also because in other cases there's a lot of overwhelm in as far as these institutions can assist. So my findings there were also that culture and the lack of knowledge and misdirection has perpetuated these acts of cyber attacks and violence. And the example that I've given there is of Tafadzo Mushunje. Tafadzo was accused of infecting her lover's child with HIV-infected blood, beating up the child, and making him drink her urine. And this was posted on Facebook. That post also had her personal phone number on it, which resulted in her receiving threats, insults, and a lot of distasteful comments from many unknown people. And she actually got more than 250,000 messages, which were all abusive. She tried to report the case, but she was told that the police couldn't help her. And then shortly after reporting, surprisingly, she was then arrested for the same alleged case of infecting that child. And the sad thing that happened there was this online activity then went offline. It went into the press, the local print media. And because of that story, she endured a lot of abuse, which resulted in her taking the local newspapers to court, and that case was heard by the Supreme Court recently, and it was found that the elements of fairness, balance, and accuracy had not been followed by those articles that were published by the press. So she won that, and if you see the pictures there, those are part of her campaign where she was showing the world that was hurt and asking that people stop cyberbullying. She then also started her organization, the Zimbabwe Anti-Bullying Trust, to help others, because when she had her situation, that's when she found out that there were very few options for support. So she tries to now also support victims. Now, if you look at the new normal, the situation is that there've come a lot of creative forms of cyberbullying. There are memes, stickers, hashtags, GIFs, emojis, images, video, audio, and so on. There's so much at our disposal for us to use creatively for good, but it is also being used for cyberbullying. I actually have seen a picture of somebody who was caught in a compromising situation with somebody's wife, and that has been turned into a meme, it has been turned into a sticker, and it's currently circulating on our social media platforms. So to conclude, my views would be there is need for more coordinated efforts by all stakeholders globally. And I would like to commend Tito and Sonia and all of your team for the work that you're doing to bring these kind of conversations on board. And I'm privileged to be representing, even though I gave a few examples of the African situation, I'm so privileged to be representing Africa today to just highlight how badly this pandemic is. And it is something that we need to all be on board to solve. I also believe that we need to involve women, children, and other vulnerable members of society, because their stories will show the extent to which they're experiencing these cases of online abuse, but they will also provide possible solutions. In the work that I do, I've been surprised by the question, the kind of responses that I get from the children and solutions that I get. So we need to involve everyone, including the children. We need to raise more awareness. We need to educate our people more. We also need to build the structures in terms of legal structures as well as other support structures. And I commend every organization that is currently working towards ensuring that victims of cyberbullying are supported and informed and given the kind of, sometimes they also need the support from what you call them, the professionals who deal with the mental health aspects, the issues that have to deal with reputation management, and the effects of the defamation, because sometimes it's not just the person who the cyberbullying, it's not just them that is affected, it's also the people who are around them, their children, their friends, their family, their co-workers. So we need more of these structures to be supported, and we need more of them to be capacitated. And finally, I would like us to focus on and amplify the positive aspects of being connected online, because there's so many beautiful things that are to be found in the digital space. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tito.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Tito,
you,
can I talk now? Tito?
Yes, Sonia,
Yes?
go ahead.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
Sonia, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Edith, for your presentation. There were many aspects that made me reflect in your presentation. One of them was this vulnerability, let's say it, vulnerability that is more targeted at women than men. And in the African situation, what I had another question, but I was wondering what reasons or causes can be found to justify this discrepancy. The question that you referred regarding female honor, especially with regard to sexuality, it made me think, because yesterday we were seeing, and I think you were present also, Edith, in the presentation regarding Japanese reality. If I'm not wrong, you were there.
Yes,
So,
I was.
yes, it was another issue about the fact that women are most targeting cyberbullying. And it was just something that when you brought this presentation today, I was again thinking about it, but it's just a comment. What I really wanted to ask you, it's what solutions, in your point of view, can be used to assist the people who experience cyberbullying?
Well, the solutions from where I'm standing is for a mindset
So,
shift. We need people to accept each other for our differences, whether men and women or people of different backgrounds, social standing. The problem is where people think they are better than other people and they think they have a say over how other people should look or dress or speak.
Yes.
Everyone is entitled to their own opinion and their own way of dressing. And I think there are other ways of telling someone if something is inappropriate, for example, like in my culture, there's a certain way of dressing that we consider to be inappropriate, especially when you're going out in public. If you find that something is offensive, then there are other ways of dealing with it without attacking a person's honor or attacking them by stripping them of their dignity. You can find ways of talking to the person in private or finding someone else who can come as a mediator or apply the relevant rules and regulations if you find that it's offending on your peace or your whatever it is that it offends. But because of human nature, the problem, Sonia, we can't control human nature. Sometimes you'll find with people they react to situations based on emotions, and so there's a lot involved. The emotional aspects have to be dealt with, the cultural beliefs, the religious beliefs. So mindset in summary is something that I would
And
consider.
gender stereotypes many times, right?
Yes,
Yes.
how we perceive that, the way we stereotype each other. That's the thing that I would consider to be the most effective for now. Because we are raising our children to think it's okay to tear each other down like that. They watch what we are doing online and they think it's okay, and that's why they are doing it to each other. Unfortunately, I couldn't give you the examples of the children because of in order to protect their identities. But there are a lot of cases of children who have succumbed to suicide or depression because of these kind of stereotypes and attacks. Being called ugly, being called fat, being called terrible things like that.
Edith, you were saying so you're an attorney, and I have
Yes.
two questions. How did you got involved in how did the interest for digital parenting emerged, or when did you become aware of the necessity? One hand, and the other is what impact does cyberbullying have on the children that you encounter in your line of work? Have you been asked to, for legal advice for cyberbullying cases?
Yes. To answer your first question, when I was working in the broadcasting sector, I worked for the regulator in our country, and one of the cases that I used to handle was the content that children would receive on television and radio, and obviously with coming up of digitalization, we also then started looking at other media like the access to the internet and internet platforms. So it started off as work, and then when my own children went to school, I found that they would come back with stories of accessing the internet, accessing content that I was trying to keep them away from because of their ages and because of my own values as a parent. But they had access because, or either because of friends who had phones or because of the school computer system. So I then combined my professional and my maternal superpowers. And 7 years ago, that's when we started Digital Age Conversations. And why it was Digital Age Conversations, because I would go into the schools and talk to the children, and we would discuss how they're using the internet, why they're using it, what excites them, what they are afraid of, what they think we could do better. And a lot of those discussions led to so many revealing things that then also led me to talk to the parents and to the educators and then to everyone else, because I found this was not something that we could tackle on our own. And then to answer your second question on cyberbullying, yes, those interactions did show that there has been a lot of cyberbullying. And like I was saying, when children are bullied on the school ground or on their way home, usually they're witnesses. But sometimes it's done when your child is in their room by themselves and they are experiencing all sorts of abuse. We had a recent case of a girl from one of the local schools who shared her nude pictures with a boyfriend, and unfortunately that boy shared with his friends, and before she knew it, they were all over the world and they became viral. And that child has been experiencing a lot of depression. So the parents then approached me for assistance, for counseling, as well as to give legal advice. So that's the kind of support that I have been providing in my line of work, as well as to inform the parents about the dangers and the opportunities, and to also support them when they experience their own cases of cyberbullying, because it's happening to the parents as well.
Okay. Sonia, I believe you have a question
yes.
for Edith.
Yes, Edith, you brought us many cases of different people, adults, men, women, but you also brought us some statistic of young children and youngsters. So I would like to know if you have a sense of which age groups are affected the most by cyberbullying.
It appears because children are now, when I started my work, it was usually children who were in high school, which is mostly 13 years and above. But now, because they're being given access to phones, either personal phones or shared devices at a younger age, it is going as far as 6 or 7 years old. I've had a case where a child was, these children, they're very artistic and very creative. They designed a not very beautiful picture of this child. They extracted different pictures of things and put their little friend's face on an animal looking, I can't even describe this thing, what it was, but it was so demeaning for the little child, and they were posting it to each other in their little circles. Now with the online schooling, some of them are using internet and WhatsApp for sharing homework or schoolwork, and they were also sharing those kind of things. So yeah, children as young as 6 and 7 have.
Children, I think children are very creative, and at that age, they can
Yes.
imagine so different ways of making fun of others. Sometimes I don't think they mean, they intend to cause harm,
No.
but they do.
Yeah, which is why the counseling is necessary,
Yes.
because when you talk to them, you find a lot of the perpetrators at those young ages are not trying to be malicious or cruel to the people that they're doing. They just think it's funny.
It's funny.
And
It's funny.
yeah, and they think, oh, this looks funny, so I can share that. And they don't realize how it affects somebody mentally and emotionally, and how far-reaching it can be. Which is why also the parents have to come in and provide support.
Yes, Tito.
Okay. Working as an attorney, I guess that you are confronted with very different issues. I was wondering what other issues besides cyberbullying do you encounter in your line of work that might be or not be connected to cyberbullying?
Okay, this one is mostly for businesses, where businesses have their reputations affected by being online. You'll find that sometimes people will post things about a particular service provider and say, I've worked with X and they were rubbish. And it goes viral and everybody stops supporting that business. So I've had businesses come to me to say, how can you ask people to cease and desist from these kind of activities where they are spreading falsehoods about the kind of service that we provide. You also find that sometimes employers and employees, they have their little issues at work and they are brought up in the digital space, and it becomes more than an issue or a labor issue. It also now becomes a cyber security issue, and the employer now wants recourse because their reputation has been tarnished by the employee or vice versa. We find sometimes the employee who's undergoing a disciplinary hearing can have that information leaked online, and it's so easy to spread that information. And before the person has actually presented their case and their defense, they're already being judged by the courts of public opinion. So there are a lot of those issues as well that have come up. And identity theft.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Another question has to do with legislation. You've given us an overview of legislation in various countries. Can you tell us, let's say, the three main points of Zimbabwe's legislation to criminalize cyberbullying? Is it just criminalizing cyberbullying, or does it provide also with educational approaches, mandating schools to have cyberbullying awareness on their curriculum? What can you tell us about the legislation in Zimbabwe?
Well, the legislation is currently looking at the aspect of criminal offenses and how to report, where to report, and once you are found to be guilty, what penalties will apply. But it does not go deep into issues of raising awareness and what will happen in schools. But from my experience and also with the interactions that I've had with both Parliament as well as the regulators, the tendency is when the law is passed, there will be awareness raising. So it will come as the law is being introduced to the people. They will be advised of what the law is saying, and as well as the surrounding aspects, like for school children, what it means, and for parents, what it means, for businesses, what it means. So those ones will be broken down, and I believe there will also be supporting legislation to the main law, which will come up, which will look at those specific aspects. But because we are right now looking at the main framework, we will have the other supporting legislation coming up as we go. But we have had a lot of support also from the International Telecoms Union, and I believe from UNICEF and other international organizations in as far as crafting that legislation. So it is, I'm glad that it has a basis on best practices, and we will be also looking at our own unique requirements as a nation and how we can tackle the issues based on our own Zimbabwean experiences and context.
Can I ask
Okay.
one more thing? One more question.
Sure.
Edith, what positive experiences have you encountered in dealing with the cybersecurity?
Oh, there are so many.
So many. I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, one of them, one is definitely how the children have shown resilience. I've seen that there's a lot of resilience in the work that I've been doing with the children. I've learned a lot about how they can actually be able to deal with some of the situations. There's one little girl who unknowingly cyberbullied another child. And when her mom informed her that what she had done was wrong, she, on her own volition, wrote a letter to her school as well to her parents and to the person that she had said the negative comments about, stating how she was sorry about what she had done and how she wanted to do better. And out of that experience, we have actually started coming up with more stories, because I get a lot of these stories on a daily basis, and we will be putting them, documenting the positives, so that these young people's voices can also be heard about how they have had good experiences online, about how they've been able to promote their campaigns or their businesses. For example, I have a niece who sells cakes, and she's been able to promote her business online. So there are a lot of positive things that have been coming up, and we are now documenting that, and we would like to amplify that a lot more. So you'll be seeing more of that coming from our end.
Thank you.
Those stories are really great, because in our line of work, and you probably also as attorney, we tend to focus on the issues, on the bad news, and it's refreshing also to let people know that, and we shouldn't forget that fortunately good experiences outweighs the bad experience for the majority of people who use information technologies. Great. Edith, we already passed we usually end up say tips or recommendations that they can give to our audiences, that and that they can apply right after the show. So think of a tip, a piece of advice or recommendation that you can provide a parent, a teacher, or a youth or a child. I'll introduce the sessions that we're still going to have tonight and until Friday. and then I'll come back to you in a minute or two, okay?
Okay, great.
Also from Portugal, Paulo Costa. He'll be talking with us at 9:30 Lisbon time in the evening. Then tomorrow morning, join us for breakfast. Rosario del Rey from Spain. She'll talking us about procedures. She was involved in the writing of a book, which is a protocol that schools can have to act upon when they receive a cyberbullying report. Methods and processes are something that are usually doesn't there isn't much information about it, so we're looking forward to hear Rosario. And then in the lunchtime, at lunchtime, 1 o'clock in Portugal, we'll have Ishamati from India talking about her, giving us an overview of the cyberbullying situation in India, and also making an interesting connection between cyberbullying and gaming theory. I'm curious about this approach. And then Monday, we'll rest for the weekend. Then Monday, October 19th, we'll have Nora Fraisse. She's the mother of a 13-year-old girl, French girl, that committed suicide as a result of being harassed on school and online. I had a pre-call with her, which was great, and she's a strong woman, an amazingly strong woman, I would say. And she'll be joining us, telling her about the amazing experience that she has had with an association called Marion Lame Entendu, and that will be October 19th. By the way, she has a book written, which was how I got to know her, about the case of her 13-year-old daughter. Here in Portugal, a movie was also shown on TV recently, actually this month, also based on her daughter's story. And then late in the afternoon, at 6 o'clock Lisbon time, we'll have Perry Aftap she's also an attorney from the United States and Canada. She lives in both countries, and she'll be bringing us stories from the trenches, what young people have taught her about cyberbullying. And this is the program for until the end of this week and the beginning of next week. So if anyone in the audience has wants to ask Edith a question, please shoot. Otherwise, I'll ask Edith to give us her recommendations, advice, or tips before we close. So we have no questions. So Edith, the floor is yours for final recommendations.
Thank you, Tito. I would recommend that we keep the lines of communication open always, and we must always show each other love and respect. Remember, technology is just a mere tool. It is not supposed to be something that we use to divide and to destroy each other, but something that was invented for us to be able to build and add to the many great things that make us human beings. So I would just like to continue to urge children, parents, educators, businesses, everybody to remember that we must exercise love. Thank you.
Well, that was a great message to end this session. Thank you once again for having accepted our invitation and for giving us your time to be here with us. It was a great pleasure to hear you and to drink your experience and to learn more about not only Zimbabwe but also Africa in
Really.
general. And Sonia, if you have some last words for
Thank
this
you.
session.
I think Edith said it all so well to end this session with her last tips and messages. Thank you so much, Edith, for being here with us today and for bringing your African reality that it's not so far away from us, but it's never very frequently in our presentations to have. So thank you so much, Edith, and I hope to see you soon, maybe here in Portugal. Who knows? See you next time. Thank you.
As we promised,
Yeah.
you have two tour guides whenever
Yeah.
you visit Portugal. It was a pleasure.
Oh, yes. Yes, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Bye
Thank
Bye
bye.
you for
bye.
inviting me. Thank you. I wish you all the best with the rest of the summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for you too. Well,
Goodbye.
let us finish with a reference to how our sponsors were kind enough to join us for this